Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is the Code of Conduct with the King podcast. I am your host, J.Spence The King. I am back for the first time live. This is exciting, man. Hey, I'm brought to you tonight by the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. I got a real special show for you today. I got my partner in crime from the Chop Up joining me, my man Muki Hawkins. Got my man, sometimes we had a little couple rumblings back and forth on the joint on the Twitterverse. My man joining us from PFF, my man EJ Daniels joining me. It's gonna be a real fun show. I'm excited because Buffalo Rumblings we're venturing off into uncharted territory. So we're here, and I'm excited to be doing this. And hey, Joe kicked it off last night with the Overreaction Show, and from what I hear, I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, so shame on me. I'm a bad bestie. I'm gonna catch up on it, but hey, he kicked it off right from what I hear. So I'm not gonna talk too long about everything. I know it's the legal tampering period, so we get to see a lot of guys' intentions to sign in certain places. Today we didn't see the Buffalo Bills be too active. I didn't think that they would. We surprisingly, Brandon Beane is a wizard, as he's been, and we were able to really retain everybody that we didn't think that we could, or I don't know how we were able to do everything that we were able to do. So instead of just go ahead and doing, instead of just talking and rambling on, I'm gonna bring my man EJ right on in, and we're gonna get it going. What's going on with you, EJ?
Spence, what's going on, man? Thank you for this opportunity to have a conversation with Bills Mafia. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you joining me. And for those who don't know, EJ is a correspondent for PFF. So why don't you let everybody know kind of what you do over there with PFF, and so they know who they're talking to when they're going back and forth with the Buffalo PFF.
Yeah, so I run the PFF Bills page. I post all the content that's on there, all the grades and things like that, and then also I'm a data collector. So at the beginning of last season, I was privileged to strictly be doing the Bills O-line. So we have a process called all blocking. So I was able to do all their pass blocking snaps and all their run blocking snaps. So I was able to see them in depthly for pretty much the whole season. So that's kind of what I do for PFF, amongst other things. But those are the two Bills related things that I do consistently.
Okay. All right. Well, the reason why I wanted to have you on tonight is because obviously, with now it's the legal tampering period. So now free agency is coming, and I'm a firm believer that free agency and the draft are always connected. And I'm sure anybody who really has any type of, football knowledge, or anybody who really digs into it will say the same thing. So the way the draft or the way free agency so far is going for the Bills, it seems like it was a strong urgency on retaining everybody that was a Buffalo Bill. So we kept Matt Milano, which really not too many people thought that we would. I was one of them. I didn't think that we could. It was one of those things where it was like I wanted to, but in my mind it was like, all right, he's gone. So I'm gonna just tell myself he's gone, so that way my heart's not broken anymore, and I just kind of moved on from it. But Brandon Beane retained him. We signed Darrell Williams. We kept him to a very good, cheap contract. Who else did we keep? We pretty much kept everybody on the offensive line. We gave our safety. We matched our safety contracts up. So tell me, how do you see this thing turning out still, as far as, once free agency does open up, and then how do you see it playing out for the draft?
In terms of free agency, I think they still need an edge rusher piece. Unfortunately, Yannick Ngakoue, that was the guy I wanted. He was gone.
Yeah.
And then Danico Autry, he's gone too. I think he got signed by the Titans, if I'm not mistaken. And then
that was rough.
Bud Dupree's gone too. So a lot of the good edge rushers, are gone. So I think because of that, subsequently, I think they're probably going to go with an edge rusher looking towards the draft. I hope that's not the case, because edge rusher is an important position for us. And if we want to get better, we can't look to someone who's unproven. I would like to see somebody that is proven. But, I mean, as you just mentioned, Beane's pretty much signed back, retained all of our players. So it looks like they're going back with this run-it-back mentality. So I didn't think, the Bills got better with these, consistent moves, these few moves that they made so far. But looking at the draft, I think they're going to go edge, and I think they're going to go corner, because that is where that they can get better. honestly, the Bills are in a position to take the best player available. So I'm looking at Asante Samuel Jr. from FSU. I'm looking for Greg Newsome from Northwestern. A cornerback that can, impact this cornerback too. Levi Wallace is a restricted free agent, so I would expect them to bring him back. You got Dane Jackson, who came on, pretty strong for the team. So I'm expecting the Bills to go corner, edge rusher, and address this defense and get some good players so they can build, for the future, and they're in a great position.
Okay, so now looking at it from that viewpoint, I'm gonna bring in my man, my partner in crime on the thing that I like to call the chop up. It's been a minute since he and I actually got a chance to sit down and chop it up. So I'm gonna bring my man Muki Hawkins in. What's going on with your Mook dog?
What's going on, young Spence? You know what I mean? What's up? What's up, ED?
Man, we sitting here talking about some of the moves so far that we were able to see in free agency, and kind of how the Bills so far on the first day of legal tampering, how the Bills have kind of been quiet because they've put a focus on retaining our own guys. So now, the first question, EJ, was, how do you see this kind of affecting what we do in the draft? What do you think we're doing with 30, or really, what do you think that we do first once free agency really does open up? Are we a day 2 type team? Are we really not too much of a free agency at all type team, and then we just look at the draft? What do you think the team is doing from the energy that you get when you correspond with the team right now?
You have to excuse me because like my day has been so crazy. I had to cook. You know what I mean? So I got my chef on. You know what I mean? I had to do some little veggie medley, like some Brussels sprouts and all that good stuff. So. When it really boils down to this, if you look at the exit meeting, what Brandon Beane was reiterating on certain things on how the season went last year, and if he had the chance to do things different, he would. Let's keep in mind, all right? Let's keep in mind that Brandon Beane has never been a GM nowhere else. Coach McDermott has never been a head coach anywhere else. So these guys are still learning on the fly with certain stuff. And when I took from what he meant by if we would have knew, we would have did things different, maybe either Jordan Phillips or Shaq Lawson would still be here. One of the two probably would have signed the contract based upon what Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott is doing this year. If you see, they focused on retaining their own and how important last year continuity is. All right. They lost that continuity on the defensive line by not bringing one of those two guys back. And that ended up being your Achilles heel, so to speak. So doing things different, you want to keep those guys that's comfortable. If this ain't broke, bro, don't fix it. Why go and spend that money outside? We can use that same money, and for the sake of the culture and for the sake of that growth mindset that Coach McDermott talks about, those guys is fully bought into that, and they was one game away from reaching the Super Bowl with that. So, it's kind of like a win-win for, the front office, because the culture that's created, those guys don't want to leave. And why would you leave to go somewhere where you helped start it from the bottom to where it is now? That's just like going backwards. That defeats the purpose. So you see guys like Matt Milano taking the family discount. You see Feliciano taking the family discount. All right. Only thing that just couldn't join the party this time is John Brown, and basically with the emergence of Gabe Davis, due to the fact that you got to stay healthy, man. And this is the business part of the game. You got to stay healthy. They was 5-0 with him being down, so going forward, here we are with the draft. The Bills did a good job of taking care of family business. Now we still have to see what's going on with Isaiah McKenzie. Obviously, he potentially can test the market, or maybe he could sign tomorrow. Who knows? If he's feeling that same way, how my notion is from, what I'm getting is that those guys aren't going anywhere. You know what I mean? They understand, they trust this process. They are very comfortable here. And, it's not about scenery. It's about work. I mean? I'm not picking a organization to bask in the sun. I'm not picking an organization to go chill on the beach. I'm coming to work. You know, and I can go to the beach in the off season. I can go somewhere warm in the off season, whatever the case. You know, if they make sure the Pro Bowl is back in Hawaii, right? That's more emphasis on getting to the to the Pro Bowl. But with that being said, as far as 30 goes, I mean, still what's left is the need at cornerback, obviously, and there's still a need at edge rusher. You know, even though Addison took the pay cut, the age is still the age. You know what I mean? Okay, do you think that Espinoza, like,
It must have been a minute. Hold on. It must have been a minute since you've been on the show or something, because you running through the whole show, dog. You got all the you hitting every single bullet point. You
he had everything going.
Yeah. He been hungry.
Everything good.
He been like, yo,
this is just appetizer.
He was like, yo, I ain't been on nothing in forever. I'm about to bust this down. I'm about to
right.
Well, no, but to your point. So let's back up just a second then. So to your point, you were talking about how, you know, the homegrown aspect, or what they're trying to do is and keep the guys that we have. So you got Levi Wallace out there. You were just talking about cornerback too. To me, that's one of the most important, if not the most important position of need now, because going into this, I thought the most important thing that they needed to do was retain Darrell Williams. They were able to do that and retain, you know, our outside linebacker, which how in the world they were able to do that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But right now, first, I'm going to swing it over to EJ. What do you think? So do you think that we should stick inside and we should address this position by just retaining Levi Wallace, or should we? I know we were linked to, you know, Richard Sherman. There's possibility that we could draft. What are you thinking that we should do?
They should not. They should retain Levi Wallace, but they should definitely draft a cornerback with the number 30. Honestly, in a perfect world, I would want to see them trade back in the second round, grab somebody. I think they could still get Asante Samuel Jr. in the second round. Get Asante Samuel Jr. Get Greg Newsome. Then you got Levi, Greg Newsome. They like Iffy Malafatu. I think that's how you say it, from Syracuse. Malafalu from Syracuse. They've had a pre-draft meeting with him. I'd like him too. So if you can get Greg Newsome and Iffy and Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace, that's only going to bolster this coverage unit. You can never have too many coverage people on your team. That's why Matt Milano was signed back, because, you know, his coverage ability is important, you know, and when you can have, you know, 4 to 5 guys that can cover at least an average to solid level, I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, look at the Bills' biggest competition right now is the Chiefs. What is their biggest strength? Speed at wide receiver. So they have to have more cover guys, and I think they can get an edge rusher a little bit later in the draft, you know what I mean, to bolster that. But I think cornerback too is definitely the biggest need, and I would like to see them trade back and try to get at least 2 corners out of this draft.
Okay, so you said later in the draft for an edge rusher. Now, yes, my concern about that is that when you say later in the draft, in my experience, it's very rare that you find a diamond in the rough late in the draft when it comes to edge rushers. Now, I know the Bills have done pretty good, you know, Matt Milano being one of them, a late round pick that turned out to be one of those guys that we really wanted to extend a contract to. You know, they find these guys late in the draft that are pretty good. I don't know about edge rusher. What do you think that there's somebody this year coming out that they might be able to look to and by later, even for edge rusher, 3 and 4 can be considered late, no?
3 and 4 is actually a little bit early for me. 4, 5, and 6. I mean, 5 and 6 is probably late. So I think they can get a guy like Peyton Turner from Houston. They can get a guy like Chris Rump from Duke. Like, there's edge rushers there that can contribute right away. I mean, you drafted AJ Epinesa like Muki mentioned already. So you have people. You have Darrell Johnson. And I mean, trust that Bean is going to make the right position. And you have to also remember Dane Jackson was a 7th round pick. So Brandon Bean has shown the propensity to be able to hit on late round draft pick. I understand where everyone is coming from, that they don't want to take an edge rusher that late. I get it, but this draft is very deep. It's very deep with lots of talent. And if Bean is hitting on late round draft picks like he has been, I don't see why I wouldn't trust him to do the same thing at edge rusher. I know Bills Mafia wants an edge rusher really badly, and there's a lot of them that have been signed already. But, you know, you got to, you know, trust that Brandon Bean is going to make the correct decision in the draft, which he's proven time and time again.
Okay, so, well, let me ask you this then, because I used to be on team, and Muki, this one is for you now, because I was on team, and Bruce is gonna love this when I say this. I was team running back at 30. I was team running back at 30 because I was so frustrated in the playoffs at what we didn't seem to have. After going back to watch the film, and I watched the entire season back, the running back position is still a position that I feel we need better production from. I don't necessarily think that we need to draft at 30, and I don't necessarily think that we need to replace the running backs that we have. What I think is that we need to figure out the right type of way to use the running backs that we have. And that's just the layman terms of saying that. You know, we can speak X's and O's and all that stuff, but I just feel like the team haven't used them correctly. So running back, or even at 30, what is it that you think that we're going to do going here now? Because we retained the whole offensive line. We're running the back. That's what they said. We're going to bring everybody back. We didn't have a good opportunity to see everybody play together. So is this offensive line the type of line that we need when you're looking at Motor and Moss, or is it something that we're going to have to look at either in free agency or via the draft?
It is for me.
Yeah.
When you look at it, now here it is. You know, I'm locked and loaded today. All right, so you know I might be a little long-winded. All right,
do it. Do your thing.
But,
do your thing.
I mean, when you look at it, when you brought Josh in, Josh was supposed to be just a game manager. He wasn't supposed to be just, you know, we know he had the gunslinger mentality, but that wasn't the process with Josh coming in. They wanted to, you know, he wanted to just be a game manager, you know, control the ball with great defense in the run game. That's why Frank Gore was brought in. You know, but when you brought in Stephon Diggs, that changed the dynamics of the offensive scheme. You know, you was bringing Stephon Diggs in here, you are throwing the ball. So the type of run style they had didn't mesh with that. So they had to go to a little bit more zone base, which catered to the scheme and your quarterback, because he's mobile. You know what I mean? He's an athletic guy. So it catered to that. So that's where I think Singletary kind of fell out of favor. You know what I mean? And then you bring Zach Moss in, who is a zone running back. But once again, he's a rookie. He's not impatient. You know, I mean, he's not patient. And in the NFL, the speed is different. You have to be a little bit more patient. That's why the Bills were interested in Le'Veon Bell, who was probably one of the best, patientest running backs in the NFL. And, you know, he's a scheme fit with the zone. Hey, what's the deal on him? You could bring Le'Veon Bell back right now. He should be a free agent. You know what I mean? You could bring Le'Veon Bell in here.
Well, not to cut you off, but let me do that. You're mentioning that there was a rumor earlier, and the guy, I don't know how legit he is or how legit he isn't. Yeah, but he actually hit on a different rumor earlier. So he mentioned that there may have been some rumblings and some talk, and Dan Lebert had brought up here about Kareem Hunt. Yeah. What about the possibility of Kareem Hunt maybe being traded?
Hey, one thing I can tell you about Brandon Beane is, at the end of the day, they are going to make this roster competitive. All right. Nobody is getting a free pass. They don't care who you are. It's their job to make this roster the most competitive roster. If you have the most competitive roster, you have the most competitive team. You have the most competitive team, there's no issue with you going out there competing against anybody. So, yeah, that's definitely going to make the running room better. Like, you got to bring a veteran guy in. Now, at 30, best available, Najee Harris, you go in there. I mean, obviously the Bills are going to do something at running back. You know what I mean? The Bills are going to do something at running back. They've been in the talks with, you know, here you go, with Le'Veon Bell to be one. Then you talk about this rumor with Kareem Hunt. You talk about, I mean, Travis Etienne verified it to me himself. You know what I mean? That the Bills have contacted him. And, you know, there's mutual interest. So obviously the Bills are trying to find a way to get better. When you look at the Kansas City game, Coach talked about speed, you know, size. Your running backs is running 4.6s out here, bro. Let's be real. What's going on right now? You can't be dynamic if you can't hang with a dynamic team if you're not dynamic in those areas that they're dynamic in. All right, we have some good backs, but we don't have dynamic backs. We don't have a back that you can give. I mean, we didn't even run a sweep all season. So how could you be dynamic if we can't even do a pitch out to a running back and he's not a game breaker to pop it for a home run? I haven't seen that in a while. You know what I mean? So You got to get dynamic in that area. You want to keep up with the Joneses? You got to be dynamic. Both our running backs is running 4.6s. You got Jadeveon Clowney runs faster than that. Okay, so you got another guy that the Bills can take at 30, Jason Uwe out of Penn State. I'm rumored to have to run a 4.33. You mean to tell me at 6'5", 260, running a 4.3? Oh, I can't wait for that pro day. That pro day next week, I think on the 23rd. I will chop it up definitely for Mr. Uwe. Yeah, so do your research. I'm on my draft game right now. That's why y'all probably haven't heard a little bit. I've been me and my man Dean Kiddick Draft Tech. We've been getting some things rolling, but I'm telling you now, I want to see him run that. If he runs a 4.5, I'm still considering getting that at 30. You look at it, the Bills took the best available player. They're not really looking for impact a guy to come in and start. They're looking for quality depth, but they have to do it in the draft position because 4 years ago, what did they take? Tre'Davious, a cornerback. They took a lineman. These guys now have re-signed big-time deals. So I don't want to chime into anything else we got better, but yeah. That's what it
well,
is.
no, it's just funny because I'm laughing first because Joe, he said you dropped the Jadeveon Clowney runs faster than our running back speech. But then, so speaking about that, so we have Kenny Riggleman posted a comment here, and I saw EJ kind of shake his head almost in disgust at the comment when I had it posted earlier. So he said, nothing against Singletary. He's just small and slow. I like Moss. If he would get 75% of the carries, I think we'd be okay. What are your thoughts about that, EJ? Because I saw you kind of react to that.
I don't understand why people are poo-pooing on Devin Singletary so bad. Like, I think he's a solid back. He's not a starter, obviously, but he can work in a rotation. And again, as Muki brought up, he brought up the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs run a Super Bowl with running a 3 rotational back system. So I agree with your point about, they probably do need some speed there. And then on top of that, back to the running, the Bills were the 5th highest graded zone running team at the beginning of the season. And people started to see, like I said, I've watched the O-line extensively. People started to see the O-line dissipate when it comes to the run game. And that's why, that's what Bills Mafia remembers. They remember the fall off. So now we go into this season and now you guys want a running back. And you're like, let's get a running back out. Let's get a running back at 30. The way you improve your running game is to improve your O-line. I mean, you brought everybody back. You ran it back. Like you say, they took in the other draft with Josh Allen, they took a lineman and they took a cornerback. Those are 3 of the top most valuable positions on the field: left tackle, cornerback, and cornerback. So why not do the same thing here? Why not take a lineman? I mean, I love the pick of Jason Owe. At 30, that'd be great. But going back to Zach Moss. Zach Moss was one of the highest graded rookie running backs in the league. He was the 5th highest rookie running back, and he also was and he was also the highest pass blocking back. And when a team like the Bills, who run the 2nd least in the league, I mean, I don't see why he shouldn't get most of the carries. But I mean, Devin Singletary can work in the system. The Bills running backs aren't as bad as Bills Mafia makes them out to be. Yes, they don't have speed, but they have a transferable trait. Both of them were able to make people miss in college, and they're able to make people miss in the pros. That's what both of them do well. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they can get it done. Yes, the Bills do need speed in the running back room, but I think they need to go get a speed back late. There's a lot of backs in this draft that they can get late with speed, but spending more resources on a position that isn't as valuable, that just doesn't make any sense to me personally.
If you're trying to win, right now, bro, you is not trying to wait for bargain shoppers in the draft. You do that in free agency. You got to go get top tier guys. You got to get guys up. One thing I can say that the Bills do, they hit so well on draft day. 85% of the guys end up starting to be an impact on the team. So 1, there that they know what they're looking for, and 2, they know how to develop it. That is very hard to do in any coaching level. You know what I mean? But on that level, I'm quite sure it's very hard to do. And you got to flip it. Like you said, 2017, those cornerstones. Now, this draft, hey, do the same damn thing. You got to find Tre'Davious running mate. So go get you another young stud corner over there. Eric Stokes just ran a 4.2. He's 6'2". Once again, we talk about size, speed. You need that element. Okay, so I'm looking at guys like that. You got Melifonwu that they can take at 61, potentially be there. I mean, Uwe, yeah, I know my man Kevin Riggleman chimed in about he was an underachiever, didn't have that many sacks. But let me tell you something. One thing you cannot teach is speed. Okay, you cannot teach speed. And if that kid, that kid runs a 4.3, if that kid runs a 4.4, if that kid runs a 4.5, okay, I'm going to get that kid and I'm going to develop him. And look at Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds is 22 years old. He's been in the league 3 years. You know what I mean? He has yet to scratch the surface. So, yeah, I would take – now, we did the same thing with Espinoza. You know what I mean? So, I would take that if he's there, but he could potentially slide to 61 too. That's why I feel you ED on moving back. You know what I mean? The Bills traded away their first-round pick last year, so it's nothing to them to move back. I had them moving back a little bit with Jacksonville to get that fourth-round pick because they don't have a fourth-round pick. But I do believe that the Bills could potentially trade a couple of times during the draft.
Well, let's talk about another potential, a need, something that I feel could be a need that could potentially be done via trade or draft or free agency. Somebody in here earlier had a good question about, do you think they'll do something about tight end in free agency with a veteran like maybe like Rudolph, or maybe I know Ertz is out there being mentioned with maybe a fourth or a third round draft pick. We can start off with EJ here really quickly. Do you think this is something that draft wise, is there somebody in the draft that you would rather target, or is it something that you're like, you know what, hey, for a third or for a fourth, you can get Ertz for a year or two? I'm making the trade 5 or 10 times out of 10. What are you looking at this year when it comes to the Bills in the tight end position?
So tight end is definitely a position of need. Brandon Beane mentioned it in his podcast with Chris Collinsworth that, you know, they need more production out of the tight end position. So in the draft, I've been doing so many mock draft simulators, and I see every time that Brevin Jordan from the U is there every single time I do a draft, no matter what it is. And that's one of the most athletic tight ends in this draft. They compare him to a wide receiver, and the Bills could use a move tight end. I've also said that I like Gerald Everett from the Rams, who was just said on his Instagram that he wasn't coming back to the Rams. I mean, I wanted to get Jonnu Smith, but I knew his price tag was going to be entirely too high because he had a lot of hype coming from the Titans. So you get a guy like Gerald Everett from the Rams who you can sign for cheaper, who can do the same thing as Jonnu Smith. His name just isn't as big. And then on top of that, you can get Kyle Rudolph. People don't like Kyle Rudolph because he's slow, but there's one thing that he can do that the Bills tight ends haven't been doing. That's catching the football. He can do that.
Facts.
You know, so he can catch and he can block. So any one of those three guys, I think, would be great options for the Bills. We don't know what's going on with Tommy Sweeney. Dawson Knox leaves a lot to be desired with his play. I think he came on a little bit at the end of the year. I honestly thought they should have signed Tyler Kroft back because at the beginning of the year, when Dawson Knox was out, he actually played solid. That Rams game, he snapped when the team wasn't looking that good. So
he did, but he just can't stay healthy, bro. Like, he just always gets injured. When he's on the field, you're right. I love him on the field. He's when he's on the field, he seems to be reliable. When the ball goes his way and it's him, it's a catch. So I'm not too worried. But the problem is, it seems like every time it's the same issue I have as a basketball fan. I'm a Lakers fan. So as a Lakers fan, every time I watch Anthony Davis, it don't matter what happens. Like, if he get a hangnail, I'm like, oh, hell, he going to be out for 4 weeks.
Right.
You know, so it's the same thing when I look at Kroft. It's like, oh, no, he's open and he tripped over his shoestring. He sprained his ankle for 3 weeks. That's my problem with Kroft. But I do like him. You know, I just don't know. What do you think about that, Muki? You think the tight end position is one that we look at in the draft? And then I have a follow-up question when you're done. So this one, don't go too hard. Yeah, don't go too hard. I got a follow-up for you.
I'm on the pinch count. Okay. Rudolph, I mean, that would be my pick.
Okay.
I mean, you look at it, 6'6", 265. You know, we need that. We and EJ said it the best, like, blocking is the main thing. We know he can catch. He you know, the blocking. The Bills need that blocking tight end. And I know we expect way too much for Dawson Knox right now. All right. When you look at it, when you look at the development, you got to trust the process.
Expect him to catch the balls too much?
Dawson Knox catches the hardest passes you think that he ain't gonna catch. He just drops the easy ones. So that's a lack of concentration. That's just a lack of concentration, bro.
Wide open. He misses.
Yeah, that's just a lack of concentration.
He on the sideline.
But that comes with maturity. When you see him next year, year 3, then you're gonna say, "Oh, Dawson." When he start catching the easy passes, we know he's gonna catch the difficult ones. And don't forget, he runs a 4.5. So that's your dynamic tight end. So they just really lighting the fire. He's definitely that guy, but they're going to bring another guy in to do blocking purposes and, be that veteran guy like a Rudolph. I would say Rudolph will probably be, in my opinion, he would probably be that guy. But if you want to go draft and we're looking for the same guy, how about Trey McKitty out of Georgia, a guy who plays the fullback, a guy who can play. You can put him in that big slot and you can put him, in as tight end. You know what I mean? So those would be my 2, in reference to that. Ertz, yeah, you can make that trade, but the Bills need those draft picks to bring guys in, you know what I mean, instead of 1-year flyer. I mean, the Bills is not too far off for them to really go too drastically with bringing players in that way.
I want to take a look at Jared Cook, but before we so I do want to switch gears for a quick minute though. Something that I do want to ask you now, you can be as politically correct about this as you have to be, because I understand, I don't want to get nobody in no type of trouble, but it's a question that a lot of Bills fans have had since last season and that we still continue to have. Do we have any type of insight on what happened with Quintin Spain? That situation it was wild, man. It was like he signs an extension. He's talking about how much he loves the culture here and he loves Josh, and then it just blows up and everything is weird. And then it's like he's tweeting cryptic messages. If only y'all knew, So do you have anything that you can say about that, or is that something that we kind of just need to move on from and let that go?
Well, one thing I can say, certain things are G14 classified now. All right. But I will say this, and then, we can move on. When you look at it, Quintin Spain was what type of blocker?
Run blocker?
A run blocker, right? What type of run blocker?
Gap.
Man. Power. Right? Why you think he had to lose all that weight? To do what? To zone block. To zone block. They changed the scheme. You know what I mean? So once they changed the scheme, he had to lose all this weight. It's not his strong suit. He's losing battles. Didn't fit the scheme. You get frustrated. You might say some things you don't say, whatever. Then you go. It's just the nature of the business. You know what I mean? Moving on with that. But that's not that didn't come from anybody. You know what I mean? That's just me reading in between the lines, like, why did he lose all that weight? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? You get that contract, you want to be fit and lean, but I think he lost too much weight trying to fit the scheme, and he just wasn't the scheme fit. And, frustration probably layered out, and there you have it. You know what I mean? It's nothing really too much to talk about, really. You know what I mean? When you look at it, when we talking football and we watching football, you have to look at it from that dynamic. I mean, when we look at Devin Singletary, we thought he had a bad year. He really had 775 yards for his rookie year, 690 this year. So it really wasn't that far off. It's just how it was schematically laid out to him that, people kind of feel, was it a sophomore slump or was it the scheme? I say maybe more or less it was the scheme. You know what I mean? And a little bit of that too, with no continuity. It's a lot of stuff. It's tougher than you think when we talk about executing at the highest level, bro. Is more difficult than you think. So just read in between the lines, and sometimes you'll have your answer.
Okay. Well, it was, the question was out there. One of the good people out here supporting Buffalo Rumblings. They wanted to know, so I wanted to go ahead and ask that question for them because I had that question too. So I do have a couple other questions about the team, and then we could talk about some of these moves that actually, you know what? Let's switch to the conference or the division really quickly. So the AFC East, we got a couple moves being made. I do not think that the Patriots automatically have just turned into this contender again. I do not. However, I do think that they got better today, right? I think for those of us who wants to hate on Cam and we want to hate on the team, it's fine to laugh and all that stuff. I get it. But I think if we're being honest, the New England Patriots got a lot better than they were last season today. With the opt-ins, the money that they splurged with, they spent a lot of money. I think they overspent, especially when we're talking about the receivers. I think that they Nelson Aguilar, are you kidding me? Like, I mean,
Hey,
come on,
don't
man.
sleep.
Like,
Don't sleep on him.
no,
Listen, he led the NFL in deep touchdowns last year. Don't sleep on him.
I'm not
Because they don't
sleeping
like
on
his
him.
lane.
Listen, I'm not sleeping on him. I'm not sleeping on him at all. But you mean to tell me that with the upcoming draft, which again seems to look like there's going to be a strong draft for wide receivers, and with the other wide receivers that's out there, we just released John Brown. You mean to tell me you would rather have Aguilar over John Brown?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he got better last year.
Well, no,
Like,
and
we
I
know
would
what-
agree that he got better.
yeah.
I would agree with that. What I'm saying is the amount of money that they spent, there's better receivers that you can get, or you can even go cheaper than that and draft somebody that's better. But I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you agree with that, or do you think that they're going about this the wrong way? I think that they're splurging. They did get better, but I don't think that they're building the right way.
I mean, you can make a case that it was a bad move. I mean, again, as I've mentioned before, players only see 68% of that contract of their contract. So he may not even get all the money that he signed for. But he did have a great year last year. He did have somewhat of a breakout year last year. And why not have both? I mean, in NFL today, when you're passing more than ever, why not get Nelson Aguilar? Why not get a Jalen Darden? Why not get a Tyler Vaughn from USC? Why not get as many good wide receivers as you can? I mean, we all sit here and talk about Cam doesn't have any weapons, so let's just get him as many weapons as they possibly can and let them battle it out. I don't think it's a bad move. Like I said, if Aguilar didn't come off of the season that he had last year, it probably would be a bad move. But he had a good year. He led the NFL in deep touchdowns. That's touchdowns with 20 plus yards or more. So I mean, he can get it done. He showed that he's gotten better. The thing is the Kendrick Bourne one. That one was a little bit of a head scratcher because they gave him $22 million. So I don't know where that is, and then Jonnu Smith, that's a great move too. Like you said, they got better on the offensive side of the ball. They were always able to run the ball because they had a solid O line. But like you said, they got better, but I don't still think they're better than the Bills with the move that they made today.
See, now you mentioned Jonnu Smith, and I like Jonnu Smith too. And he was a player that eventually came on my radar because of the Greg Thompsons of the world and so many others who they do their player profiles and they get their player crushes on them, and then I look at their tweets and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check them out. Jonnu Smith appears to be a very, very talented player. So when I say this is not a negative thing that I'm saying about him. What I do not understand from Bills Mafia is why we were so in love with the idea of having Jonnu Smith. When you look at the production that Jonnu Smith has had over the course of the same amount of time that Dawson Knox has been in the league, and Dawson Knox has very comparable, slightly better stats than Jonnu Smith. But we want to get rid of Dawson Knox for Jonnu Smith. I do not understand that. I don't get that. Would you have swapped the two from your viewpoint? Because if you look at the stats, Dawson is very, very, very close and actually slightly better. I was actually trying to pull them up.
Yeah, I mean, the dynamic tight end. I mean, Dawson is their guy. You need a veteran guy next to him, and that's the thing. Even with our running backs, they need a veteran guy. But if it's hard when if NTN and Najee Harris is there at 30. Do you pull the trigger? I mean, but there is veteran guys out there. There are veteran dynamic guys out there that you can get at a good deal. I don't think the Bills would draft. If their Bills going to draft a running back, they're going to draft a first round running back. They're not going to draft another third round running back. You have two of them already. All right, so they're not going to wait again to draft another guy. If you're going to do that, you might as well don't even draft a running back at all because you got Antonio Williams. So, you got to look at where they need to get better at. Offensively, you need a dynamic back next to Josh Allen, right? Hopefully, Dawson Knox can turn into that dynamic tight end that he was drafted to be to go along with that veteran tight end, in a Kyle Rudolph, in a Zach Ertz, and so on and so forth, Jared Cook. Read in between the lines. The guys that's been around Josh Allen are not going anywhere. All right, it's just not gonna happen. You see these guys re-signing, all right, and it still holds at certain spots, and they're going to address that hopefully with some veterans that's looking at Buffalo like, hey, they're a contending team, and I want to come and get these guys over the hump. Something that J.J. Watt couldn't do. I mean, Cardinals made him an offer he just couldn't refuse. So I ain't mad at him about that.
Man, can I tell you how happy I am that we didn't sign J.J. Watt though? Like, not that I mean, okay, if we were to sign J.J. Watt, I don't think that there's anybody who's a Bills fan who wouldn't be excited about having a huge player, a superstar, come to Buffalo, right? But at the same time, could you imagine a week ago, 2 weeks ago, nobody thought that we would be able to bring everybody back that we would have wanted to bring back. Nobody, if we would have got J.J. Watt, that's not happening. That is not happening. And wait, we're going on a tangent. I did not mean to do this. We're talking about New England. So we're talking about them splurge and spending money. We're talking about Jonnu Smith. And I was talking about how the stats are comparable between he and Dawson Knox. So now you're looking at New England, and EJ was talking about the receiving core. Technically, it is better. You're right. They did give Cam better weapons. So now my man Aaron Quinn, hopefully he's listening. If not, I'm gonna shout him out. Make sure he's listening tomorrow. No, because me and him go back and forth about Cam. The thing about it is, I just feel like last year Cam didn't get a fair shake. Now this year, if Cam gets some receivers and they give him some type of protection and he goes out there and he bombs it again, hey, it's not my team. I really do not care that much. But I will gladly say that you all are right about Cam and that New England is trash and blah blah blah. It's just that I don't want to write Cam off because of an injury, and I don't want to write Cam off because he got COVID early in the season. I really do think that Cam is one of the hardest working quarterbacks in the league. I think that he's talented. I think sometimes injuries take a couple of years to come back from. I just really do, especially when it comes down to throwing motions and the shoulders that you use to throw, or when it comes down to stuff like that. So, I don't want to get on a Cam rant and preach about Cam, but I do think that if you feel like the Patriots are like they just spending money and they're not getting better. No, they're getting better this year. Like they definitely helped Cam Newton out a ton. And that defense, first of all, they got some players that opt back in. They made a really big signing. They snuck away that linebacker from Baltimore. And I'm gonna tell you what, that is not a slouch. That's not you shouldn't just ignore that. We got Josh Allen. They got somebody to run after Josh. That was exact. So Josh Allen having the season that he had, the near MVP season, that move that the New England Patriots just made today, that was a direct response. That's exactly what that was. EJ, what do you think about that signing, and what do you think about so far how the AFC East appears to be shaping up?
I love the Matthew Judon shine. He was really productive for Baltimore. Solid linebacker. Played in 3-4 scheme, move guy, like you said, can chase after Josh Allen, and any of these athletic guys that you can get on the defense to chase these quarterbacks around, especially with how many more mobile quarterbacks there are in the league, is always a plus. And one thing that you can count on with the Patriots, they're going to have a scheme, they're going to have players, they're going to put people in the right positions. As far as the AFC East as a whole, I said I like what New England did. I like what Miami let their defensive tackle go. It's getting better, man. Like I say, it's getting better. The Jets signed Corey Davis. They let one of their defensive tackles go. But, I mean, everyone's getting better. I feel like these other two teams, the Jets and Miami, are probably going to make moves in the draft that's going to be big splashes. Miami has the third pick, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. The Jets have 2 first-round picks. So I think they're going to make big moves there, and we're still waiting to see what they're going to do. But, I mean, I like Robert Saleh. I like what he's doing. And then, Bill Belichick, we already know what he's going to do. And then you see what Brian Flores is doing in Miami, man. He let Lawrence Guy go, and Kyle Van Noy. He let Kyle Van Noy go. Like, he's making moves. Everyone's making moves to try to get better. The Bills are no longer the team, the up and coming team. They are the hunted now. Now people are going to come after them. They can't sneak up on anybody anymore. People are going to come after. People are going to make moves. People are going to double Stephon Diggs. People are going to make sure they take away what the Bills do best. So they got to be ready for it.
And I don't know if this is accurate. I normally will go and trust Adam Scheffner, but I'm seeing that my man Kenny Riggleman is reporting sources per Kenny Riggleman live on the Code of Conduct, brought to you by the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. We're reporting that the Jets have signed defensive end Carl Lawson, who was actually one of the guys that was on my list that I wanted the Buffalo Bills to hopefully sign. But he has been signed. I didn't get a chance to look when I got off.
He's been signed for $30 million.
Okay, so so that was somebody that I wish we could have got, but we weren't good. That's too rich for our blood right now, and Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. I think that the Buffalo Bills are still the best team in the division. I think other teams are chasing, like EJ was saying. Like now, you're going to get, it's kind of like, again, I'm a Lakers fan. Every single night, you get the other team's best shot because you just won the championship. And in the Bills' case, you're the AFC champion, the AFC East champion. You just went to the AFC championship, so you got teams looking at you like, oh, you're the elite of the league now. You're top four. You're top four team in the league. Teams are going to come for you. So, hey, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be fun this year, man. So what about the Jets? What about the Jets? So they just signed, they just signed Lawson. I did want him. What do you think is going on there? They got a new front office, new coaching staff, all this stuff. How impressive do you think they're going to be year one? Because we've seen it now. The Buffalo Bills have improved year one under Sean McDermott. Now you look down in Miami. Brian Flores has helped them improve in year one. What do you think is going to happen out in East Rutherford, New Jersey?
Obviously what the Bills done is definitely going to make everybody in the division step their game up. I mean, they're going to have to, or that's the same thing is going to keep happening. So you're going to have to bring in guys, to make your team better, because if you don't, you will not be able to beat the Buffalo Bills. And the Jets and the Patriots, okay, you give them credit. They put some things together. They're forced to put those things together. Bill Belichick went to the strip club and he's just tricking off all the money. He's just giving it all away. He just give it all away. Now, I do like the linebacker signing with Judon because he does pair with Hightower, who will be back. He opted out last year. They still have Chung. He opted out as well. So the defense is still going to, come with their fire. The offense, you still have Sony Michel. You got Cam Newton coming back in the second year. You got N'Keal Harry. Hopefully he can, evolve. This is his make or break year for him. You bring in Nelson Aguilar. Okay. But on the flip side, they traded back for Trent Brown, right? They got Trent Brown back from the Raiders. But you lose Joe Tooney.
Yep.
So, you give a little, you take a little, you trade away Cannon as well. He opted out. You get rid of him. So I don't know. I think that, New England probably goes towards the draft as far as linemen. And, this is Bill Belichick. We're talking about one of the best coaches in NFL history. So every year he's going to compete. The Bills just going to have to always come with their A game because, like ED say, they're out of hunter. Robert Saleh, he's going to bring that same style that he had in San Fran. So he's rebuilding up front because the game is won up front. So you go get that Lawson guy who's going to mimic that Bosa and, those other guys that reminiscent of that front line that he had up there in San Fran. So the game is won up front. It wouldn't surprise me that they'll make another splash up front. Who knows with all these pass rushers signing, where does Jadeveon Clowney end up?
Well, listen, I got to hang out with my guys, Matt and Ryan, the other day last week. And one of the questions that I asked them, and we had a pretty good discussion about this. What about the backup quarterback position? What do you think the Buffalo Bills are looking to do there? Are you thinking that we're going to sit? We'll start with EJ with this one. My concern is that, and I'm sure this is the case on every single team that feels that they're a contender. If their starting quarterback goes down, their season pretty much is over when it comes to them being contenders. But I'm really not comfortable when you're looking at Matt Barkley coming in for him, or I'm not comfortable and I know we haven't seen, Jake Fromm in action, since Georgia, but I'm not comfortable with him either. So it's one of those things where in my mind it's like, hey, let's get somebody. Now the heartstrings, the fan in me, the Buffalonian who loves a certain individual is like, bring Fitz back. Bring Fitz back. That's not realistic. What do you think is realistic as far as a quarterback 2 position? Are we happy? Are we looking? What do you think?
Honestly, I don't hate Matt. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't hate Matt Barkley. I mean, what he did when he came in that game in Miami, I'm not gonna say it solidified his job, but it's like quarterback 2 is not really a big necessity or need for me. But I will say this: with the way Josh likes to play, with the whole when the lineman busts through, he want to try to stiff arm 5 linemen to try to make a play. That may be some cause of concern where he may open himself up to more injury. And as I've mentioned before, going to your quarterback 2 point, it's like, do you want your $100 million or $200 million quarterback, taking these hits and trying to do that once he signs his big extension? So investing in another quarterback that has a similar skill set, and Josh would be wise. And if I'm Brandon Bean and I see a kid like Kellen Mond from Texas A&M that's there late in the draft, that's pretty accurate, that can move, I would think of investing in him just because, Josh opens himself up to injury when he does stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, man, I just wish that Tyree would have worked out. I really wish Tyree could have been good enough to work, because I feel like the skill set, like, he had the strong arm, and then like the story would have been really good. Buffalo fell in love with him because of the UB and all that stuff. Muki, what about you? What do you think? Same question. Backup quarterback position.
You got Fawn.
Yeah.
You got Davis Webb. I know that they don't really fit the mold of what Josh Allen does, but I think if in the event that Josh Allen goes down, they change they change the script a little bit. More pocket passing, more run game. That's where I think if they would have brought like you said, Tyree Jackson, he fits that mold of what Josh Allen does in the event of being quarterback number 2, and your offense doesn't miss a beat per se. But I don't know. That's why they re-signed the lineman back. Keep them clean.
Yeah. But you know what? I gotta I guess I gotta put some respect on Davis Webb name, because Matt, when I asked the question, that was the name Matt brought up. Matt Perino. That was the first name he brought up, and now that you mention it too. But the thing is, with last season, with us having no preseason, and then also there was a very, very limited amount of media access to the team last year, as far as being able to, every once in a while, Matt or, Sal and those guys would be able to post, some stuff up from practice. We didn't get to see Davis. So I don't really know what he is. So I apologize if Davis by any chance might be listening, or if somebody might be listening that knows him. Listen, I love him. I hope that he's good enough to be the backup quarterback. I really hope that we can upgrade it, though. I like Matt Barkley. I just don't see him being somebody that we really can depend on. And I know we had a comment earlier that said that they like him. And I know EJ said that, he had a pretty good game, so he's not too upset about having him on the team. I just don't know. I feel like it's a completely – I just don't feel like if Josh goes down, say it's week 4, and knock on wood, Josh goes down for 5 weeks, are we out of playoff contention now? Nothing is. Can he at least keep us in playoff contention until Josh comes back? I don't think we have a guy. I don't need a guy, because if we could find quarterbacks like that, it wouldn't be so difficult finding franchise quarterbacks. Like, oh yeah, we got a guy that could get us 12 wins a year. It's not a problem. So I understand that, but I also don't want a guy that is going to bomb, is going to blow up in our face the moment that Josh Allen, goes down for any length of time.
I don't think if that happens, like I said, they'll just gear it towards his skill set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's good for the locker room. I mean, he's good for your quarterback. It's kind of like certain guys you just want to keep around for your quarterback. You know what I mean? I mean, I hate to like flip off the sports, but just look at what Jack Eichel was going through with Sabres. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the pieces around him. That's why the team is suffering. You know what I mean? And when you do find those pieces, you got to learn how to keep them around. You still have to juggle your roster. But certain guys, like, I got to keep him around for my quarterback. Like, he's helping them so much off the field that, I got to have him around. He's just great for Josh. You know what I mean? So Barkley might do it for the culture too and come back, another year. With this quarterback frenzy that's out here, I don't really think that it's a market for him. You know what I mean? So where does he go? They love that. The one thing I can say about these players, they love it here. So he's a California guy. You know what I mean? So if he was to come back, run this thing back the same way like it was, if Josh go down, then the game plan changes. You know what I mean? It definitely changes to his skill set. He can't do the same thing Josh does, but I guess that's the risk you take when when you're dealing with a roster, when you're dealing with a 53-man roster.
All right. Well, look, we about to get on out of here, but before we do, I want to have both of you. I'm gonna ask y'all a dark horse or a sleeper pick for what you think Brandon Bean might do something that nobody's really no radar pick, something that you might not see. But in free agency, we got it's about to start. What do you think, EJ? We'll start with you. Who do you think that Brandon Beane might target that nobody's talking about right now?
The Chargers just released Casey Hayward on Saturday, and Casey Hayward could fit in this scheme because he's played in the cover 3 scheme the last couple of years, and Bills run a heavy zone scheme. So that is a sleeper signing that I'm looking for. Casey Hayward to the Bills.
Okay. What about you, Mook?
I'm still on the Le'Veon Bell train.
Man, I don't like him. I don't like him, man.
I'm still on Le'Veon Bell. I mean,
that'd be a great move.
I don't think the Bills are going to think that Najee Harris or NTN to be there for them to entertain. I guess having the best guy. I mean, they need playmakers.
Well, seriously though, and maybe I need to watch more because from what I've seen when he was in New York, especially, I do get that their line was horrible. I get it was horrendous in New Jersey. I get that, but I just don't think Bell. Like I kept saying, I want to add speed. We need speed. We need more speed. Bell is not adding that speed for me right now. I don't feel like he's the same Bell that he was.
4.5 guy.
No, I understand that he ran a 4.445. Like I understand that that's what he ran. I don't know if that's what he's running now, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
Well, we're not sure, but what you're getting out of a veteran guy is a guy who knows pass pro. You're getting a guy that a defense will have to scheme around because guess what? You can't just rely on your 4-man and drop 7 in coverage because the pass is killing y'all. They have Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. So that kind of balances some things out. We're talking dynamic players, okay? It's chess, not checkers. It changes the dynamic of how a defense have to scheme for their pass game when you have a dynamic running back such as Le'Veon Bell. Maybe he's not as dynamic as he was in Pittsburgh, but the name rings bells still. So defense have to respect that. And if you don't, here you go, Le'Veon, go eat.
Yep.
So I still say the Bills, quiet. Nobody's talking about it, even though they was basically, one of his top teams. So what do? You're not coming back to Kansas City. I mean, where are you going to go? You're going to go to that team that, hey, you probably should have went to in the first place. They still on they resigned their whole team back. People don't know how important that is. They resigned their whole team, so now they don't have to go back to the drawing board anymore. These guys know the scheme. We hitting the ground running. Only thing now we got to do is implement the run game now. That's going to be probably the focus of this offseason. It's implementing that run game to balance out the attack entirety. So what you do, go get a veteran running back, let your rookies, develop and process and, pass the torch, But by that time, hopefully we got a Super Bowl underneath our belt.
All right. Well, I mean, I hope the two of you both agree on Bell, and maybe I'm looking at something that maybe I'm looking through the lens of a hater. I'm known to do that from time to time. I can admit that. So, but we're gonna get on out of here. I appreciate the both of you for taking the time out. I know it's late now too. I'm in Phoenix, so I'm still 3 hours behind. It's only 7:30 for me now. So I appreciate y'all. You
called JJ, told him to come to Arizona. It was you. It was
man,
you. Man,
I did. I was like, I was like, JJ, I want to play golf, man. Come out here. Forget about it's cold out there, bro. It's cold. Come hang with me. And he decided to, no, I'm playing, man. I would have loved to have him in Buffalo, but I'm happy the way it turned out. But before we get out of here, why don't we let both of you, to have a moment real quick to let everybody know where they can find your content, what you got going on. We'll start off with the Mook, man. Go ahead and let them know what's going on with you, dog.
And you can check me out, Waffle Sports, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can check me on the Waffle Sports Report every Sunday at 96.5 FM Buffalo, 1080 AM. And, we got Sports Cube and Live 95, which will be my internet radio station on deck very, very soon. You can get that app on, Apple iTunes or whatever the case may be. It'll be there pretty soon.
Muki making moves. EJ, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you and what you got going on, man?
Yep, so you can find me again at eDaniel77 on Twitter. I mean, that's where I list all of my hot takes and interact with the Bills Mafia as much as I can. I love your comments and your vitriol that you spit at me when you don't like my takes. You can also find me on the Cold Front reports, live streams. We doing a draft stream every Thursday, so you can tune in to watch our draft stream. And then, of course, on the PFF Bills page, all the content that I post again is posted by me, so you can definitely go follow PFF_Bills.
Can I get some of my
All right.
Now, can I get some of my draft sleepers?
Go for it real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Draft
Go
sleeper.
ahead.
TJ Slayton out of Florida. You get your Jordan Phillips carbon copy, 6'5", 340. Please go look at that highlight tape. He should be available 3rd, 4th, 5th round, somewhere in between there. Another guy, Divine Diablo from Virginia Tech, 6'4", 225. He can play linebacker, which I thought that if Bills were to leave, if Milano would have left, he could replace that. And also he can play safety. So you got a guy at 6'4", 225, Sean Taylor type guy that'll still be around in those meat and potato rounds for Bean to do what he need to do. Check him out.
All right, I'm gonna check them out. And you already know how we do over here with the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. It's your boy J.Spence The King. This is the Code of Conduct. We are gonna continue this week going on. I think tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, I think my man Matt is gonna continue it on with another live show, just kicking off the free agency week. So make sure y'all check him out. I think Bruce got something going on this week too, man. Go find us all on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at J.Spence The King. Bruce exclusive, the one and only, the man. And like I said, my man Joe Miller is joined forces with us too. We got the Hump Day Hotline coming back Wednesday. So me and Joe gonna be back Wednesday night doing the Hump Day Hotline. So y'all already know how it is. Like I said, y'all live in peace, take care of each other, love each other, and hey, y'all stay positive and test negative. Go Bills.